All right, today we are putting together a kind of field guide for this new species of code that's popping up everywhere, the kind written with an AI copilot. We're going to dig into what it looks like, how it feels, and most importantly, how to actually work with it. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling, right? You're looking at a chunk of code, and it's just a little too clean, a little too generic. I mean, it works, but it feels like it was pulled straight from a textbook, not built for the messy, real-world project you're actually in the middle of.
And hey, if you're getting that feeling more often, you are definitely not imagining things. Data from Stack Overflow and GitHub is showing that a massive 70 to 80% of developers are already using AI tools. So this isn't some niche thing on the horizon, it is the new normal, right now.
Okay, so where do we even start? How do you spot this stuff? Well, let's begin with the surface level clues, the things you might notice just at a quick glance.
Now, this is a really important point. None of this is like hard evidence. Think about it this way. A bakery cake might have that impossibly smooth frosting, but let's be honest, some home bakers are just scarily good. So these are soft signals we're talking about, not definitive proof.
So what are these signals? Well, things like textbook perfect formatting, comments that are super verbose but just state the obvious, logic that's been overgeneralized for 10 imaginary situations instead of the two you actually care about. You might also spot a few extra helper functions that don't seem totally necessary, and these really polite, generic variable names like result or data. It all kind of feels like code that's wearing a tuxedo to a backyard barbecue.
All right, let's go a layer deeper, because the real giveaway often isn't what's in the code, but what's missing. We're talking about a lack of real-world context, that project-specific grit. A fantastic example of this is just naming. An AI will often pick names that are technically correct, but just feel culturally wrong for your team's dialect. You call it an account ID, the AI calls it a user ID. You call it a ledger entry, it spits out transaction. It just shows it hasn't lived and breathed inside your team's specific little world. And this goes for the structure too. You see, AI often creates this perfectly modular system that looks amazing on a whiteboard, neat little folders for services, validators, handlers. But a human developer, they often structure code to reflect the messy reality and the actual pain points of the system's architecture.
Now, for one of the biggest tells of them all, error handling. This is where judgment and experience are absolutely critical, and it's an area where AI-generated drafts can get, well, a little slippery. So you got to be on the lookout for these patterns. Things like catching super broad exceptions, which can totally mask the real source of a problem, or just swallowing an error and returning a default value. A total nightmare for debugging. And you'll see vague log messages like, an error occurred with zero context. These are all classic signs of code that just hasn't been pressure tested in the real world.
I love this metaphor because it perfectly sums up the problem. AI-generated code often lacks the battle scars, the kind that you get from dealing with real-world system failures, weird API timeouts, and all the other kitchen disasters of production software. Okay, so that brings us to the most important part of this whole thing. The goal isn't just to spot AI code, it's to make it reliable. So how do we take that AI first draft and turn it into production-ready code we can actually, trust? It really starts with how you prompt the AI in the first place. You have to be specific. Give it your constraints, your naming conventions, your error handling policies. And don't just ask for a solution, ask for the trade-offs. A really powerful prompt is to just ask it, where will this break in production? And this is a big one. Explicitly ask it to remove unnecessary code. Great engineers are often subtracting, not just adding. The key here is to have a deliberate process. Go ahead, use AI for that first draft. But then, immediately, add tests that reflect reality, not just a happy path. Trim away any of those speculative abstractions it came up with. And finally, review the code with intent, asking why this, not just does it work. What I find really interesting about this is how it reframes the tools we're already using. These aren't AI detectors, they're reality checks. Integration tests are absolutely brilliant for exposing those clean world assumptions that AI code often makes. And using real, domain-focused data, that'll quickly pop the bubble of fake confidence that comes from using fake data. So this brings us to our final and honestly most important takeaway. This whole discussion shouldn't really be about AI versus human. It should be about what truly matters when we're building software. At the end of the day, good AI-assisted code just looks like good code. That's it.
It's code that's been anchored in your project's reality. It feels like your team adopted it and taught it all the house rules.
And that is the bottom line, isn't it? The real goal here is to ship reliable, high-quality, maintainable code. Who or what wrote that first draft is way less important than the quality of the final product. So instead of asking, hey, was this written by an AI, I think a much more powerful question to leave you with is this. How are you going to strategically use these tools to create a better, more context-aware first draft so you can spend your valuable time and brainpower on the hard parts that truly matter?